Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Music and People Journeys interview special. And it's one of my, special for me anyway. And this is Oliver Phillips from the band Everon. Hello, Oliver. How are you?
Hello. Good evening. I'm all fine. Pleasure to be here.
Now, we were just laughing and joking because the name Oliver Phillips conjures up a very English name, but you're not English, are you? You're German, or you live in Germany, but you're German.
I'm living in Germany. I'm German.
You are German.
But I think my ancestors are probably Dutch. Like, actually, Oliver Phillips is a kind of name you cannot pin anywhere. So many people think I'm Australian. That is like a myth that has traveled since the first Everon album, because Greg Bridges, the guy who did the artwork, was Australian. And then somebody somewhere wrote that I was Australian, and then that kind of also traveled. But I'm German as can be, but my ancestors are probably Dutch.
So, Everon, now we reviewed your album and it did rather well. We rather liked it. So how would you, but let's hear from your own words then. How would you, because some people describe you as a progressive rock band, but I don't buy that. How would you describe somebody's go, what do you, and they bumped into you in a pub somewhere and say, well, what sort of music do you make then, Oliver?
Yeah, I don't know, and I actually never tried to describe it. Frankly, I didn't even know what progressive rock is when we started this. We recorded our first album, and we paid ourselves. It was self-produced, and then it was like published a review in Rock Hard magazine. That is like Germany's biggest rock magazine, and back then, at least in the day, they had always a section like with self-produced things. And that's where somebody wrote that we were a progressive rock band. And then we got offers from progressive rock labels. Back then was SI Music was the first one we went with, was a Dutch company. And so ever since we're a progressive rock band, but I never thought much about it, frankly. I embraced it in so far that I have the feeling it allows me to do whatever comes to mind, which is actually how I would define it, whatever comes to mind. Yes. And in progressive rock, you apparently get away with it. So that's frankly, I don't like to even think in categories when it comes to music. There is types of music that I love in all kind of genres imaginable, as there is things I personally don't like in all kinds of genres. So for me, genres are actually, I think they're kind of useless. It is something you need to in order to market it and promote it and sell it probably. But to me as an artist, it means nothing.
I think in life, isn't it? Everything needs to have a label these days, and but it is. I think it's a style of music. It's a sound that you are like. So for now, if somebody says to me, "Oh, nice, do you want to come and watch a rock band?" I go, "Yes," but I go, "Oh, hold on, what sort of rock band?" Well, they're into metalcore, and I would immediately go, "No, I don't want to go and watch somebody screaming at me, in unintangible, incomprehensive words that I don't understand. So no, I don't want to go and watch that sort of rock." So I suppose there's a need there in some circumstances. So
yeah.
So how long have Everon been a band? When did Everon form?
Oh God, it was 100 years ago. I even think it was still the late 80s. I joined this band when I was just coming from school, so I think it was 89 or something.
Right.
Yeah. So it was as long as that, and then the first album was in 92.
Right.
I think it came out in 93, but recorded in 92, and then we kept going quite regularly every 2 years for 3-4 albums. And then it was when I started working more as a music producer, and we had the studio together, like Moschus, the drummer back then, and me. Then in the way there was at some point there was less time for the band because there was so many other projects, and yeah, I don't know. There was a time in the 90s, early 90s, mid 90s when we were very serious about it in terms of thinking that we would become full-time rock stars. There was we had a bit of a heyday at that time. That was for a short moment progressive rock kind of really had had reached a peak in terms of public attendance. Every now and then, like these niche genres, let's say, kind of suddenly get swept into the mainstream. That was like of course, it started like with Kaylee having a #1 hit, Marillion with Kaylee, and then it was like Dream Theater was picked up by MTV with Pull Me Under and like the Images in the World album. So all of a sudden, there was like more interest in that type of music, and we happened to be there. And that's how then we got signed to Roadrunner. And we had like fantastic reviews, and it was like the kind of the next thing to come. And then it was all over very quickly. Actually, not we got signed to Roadrunner. Roadrunner licensed the whole catalog of a record company, but actually mostly because of Everon. And then that record company, SI Music, went bankrupt. And then the whole thing was completely on hold. And there was like a year of legal struggles with actually everything being on ice, because the catalog, of course, was part of the liquidation mass. And when that time was over, then also the hype was already over. And then I figured that probably I would need to do something else to make a living. And it was around that time that then we opened a recording studio, a brilliant choice, and did that for 10 years. And then when that was over, I started to work freelance and make like film music or to produce other artists.
So hold on. So we're jumping ahead. Let's just roll back there, because obviously, and it's very fascinating because I, in terms of what you're saying, because obviously I was like, that was my heyday, you know, back then, and where the likes of Rush, which people have, you know, and Saga, which people kind of, you say you were directly influenced by those. But were you, or is this just a lot of marketing kind of speak? Were you influenced by the likes of Rush? And if not, who was influenced?
Let's say I started Everon when I was 19, right?
Yeah.
So of course at that age you are influenced. Actually, I was influenced by a lot of things, like my indecisiveness when it comes to which kind of style or genre I would like. Was already apparent when I was a teenager. So as I recall it, of course, it's a long time ago, but it feels like I've been switching like through periods like super quickly. Like I remember like a heavy metal phase. I remember a jazz fusion phase. I remember a new romantic phase. There was like Spencer Tears for Fears and all that stuff. And also there was, without me knowing that this is progressive rock, of course, I knew the bands of that time, like Saga, like Rush, like Marillion. That was like because we were popular bands, like all else that existed where I didn't even know. But Rush, indeed, I would say were an influence very much, because I still I just ultimately respect them for their career. Like there's so many things that they did right. If it was so much in the music, I don't think so. When I joined the band, that they already existed, they had a repertoire already. That was very heavily influenced by Rush. Like the guitar player back then who wrote the songs until I came in, he was like a real diehard fan, particularly of this Hemispheres to Moving Pictures kind of period. So that you could hear, and I think there is 1 or 2 songs on the debut album that survived from that era. And but for the music that I wrote myself, no, I don't think so, that it is so much the influence. But it's a band I really like very much. Like I think there were,
because it is fascinating, isn't it? Because in that day, I mean, you know, when I was massively into I saw Rush and Judas Priest and all those.
But then you see, it's also a wild combination, right? So for a real progressive guy, you wouldn't go to see Judas Priest.
No,
but it's also my first concert of my life was when I was 14 years. It was like the heavy metal festival at Westfalenhalle Dortmund over 2 days. And there was also Judas Priest but everybody was there, like Judas Priest, Ozzy, Iron Maiden. So that was my first concert experience. Then the second was Billy Cobham, like a jazz drummer.
All right, okay, yeah. Well, it is fascinating because, like, you know, I mean, I am not a fan of Dream Theater because it just goes on. You know, my span of a record is maximum 6 minutes. After that, come on, just why don't you just do another song and do it part 2 or something? It just gets me, you know. Whereas I suppose like Rush and maybe yourself, in terms of if you are. You are more of a commercial progressive rock band, in that
Yeah.
way, whereas Dream Theater just bore the pants off me. So
And it's a
do you know what
totally
I mean?
different
And
approach.
so I think there's progressive and there's experimental progressive, but I don't like that sound progressive. That just doesn't sit well with me. So most bands for me personally, because we review people for our listening pleasure, it's just boring. It just you're just bored. And I would not say that your lyrics and your musicality is similar to Rush in terms of that. It's kind of deep, but it's also easy listening as well. And that's for me great. So, but anyway,
I think there is a similarity in terms of probably how we're thinking. I was just judging from like what I heard, like Alex Lifeson or Lee when they talk about the music and like the I think that believe that we think alike when it comes to putting the song first. Like not also Rush was, let's say they also tried themselves out in the early days, but in general was very song orientated. Like although it may be I don't even want to call it complicated music, let's say unconventional music in terms of not necessarily operating in the conventional structures, but it is always very listenable. And this is something which I personally also believe is important. I wouldn't want to make music that is uh, how can I say, intellectually challenging. I don't like music to be an intellectual challenge. It shall be an emotional challenge. If I
yes,
want to be do something for my brain, I read a book or something,
yeah,
that's not what I try to get out of music. That's also not how I make music. But of course, I have a lot of respect for the career of, for instance, Dream Theater. It's also personally not my cup of tea musically, because for me that is too much showboating, but still I can appreciate what they're doing in terms of that. What they're doing, they do excellently, and of course they have a huge following. They're for 40 years of a career. So who am I to tell them that it is wrong? But I can say without meaning it bad that it is not for me. I don't get anything out of it.
okay.
If
Yeah, the next question I want to ask though is because I mean for me as a fan of rock music, it was a very bizarre kind of transition really, that early 90s. Nirvana came on the scene and they
yeah,
changed it, but suddenly all of these great bands like Whitesnake, even Guns N' Roses that you think are going to be changing, that Meatloaf, all of these great bands just suddenly, other than maybe a few like Iron Maiden, AC/DC, literally as if the world had gone, yeah, you know what, nah, no more, and you just left scratching your head going, where's it all gone? Where's it? Where is it all gone? I mean, as an artist, how did you? Was it a case of like, obviously didn't, but did you feel, what the hell? What was? Where's the? Or were you just caught up in the moment and suddenly the peak of that sort of music had kind of just faded away? It was just bizarre, really. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It was just, as an artist, how did you feel that,
yeah, but
that
to
sort
keep
of
in mind, I
music?
was very young, so
Yeah.
I was like really unexperienced, and so everything was new.
Yes.
Um,
True. True. Yeah.
So I just think for me it was the experience. Okay, that's how it goes, and also from if I look at it now from the age that I have now and all the time between, isn't that how it goes all the time? Is every like
Probably
1 or 2 years it's the fashion, let's say,
the
changes,
fashion.
and still there is bands or artists that continue all the time that have a stable following. They may have like their peak at some point, but look at bands like a band like Marillion that was there already, was also one of the first bands I saw like on the Fugazi tour. I was Misplaced Child. Fugazi was too young. However, and they're still there, and they of course they are not playing like the biggest venues anymore, but they're established on a
Yeah.
solid level, and made a career there without being like in the spotlight. So they don't have like hits or anything, and the mainstream doesn't care. But still, they managed to keep their following together. So
I don't know why. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of Marillion.
I think that
But each to their own. But yeah.
they are. I think they are very good at keeping their fan base together, like with these
Yes. Oh yeah,
Marillion
yeah, yeah, yeah.
weekends.
They keep bringing
They
albums
do it
out.
very successfully. As for their music, honestly, I don't have an opinion. I think the last album of Marillion I've heard was Brave. So that was, I don't know how long ago that was. And actually,
A couple of years ago now, wasn't it? A couple of years ago it was. Yeah, yeah.
the 90s still. The 90s still was like second album with Steve Hogarth, third album, I think. And the truth is that actually I just recently learned that I abandoned them for a terrible reason. I don't know, probably you know Nick Shilton?
No.
The guy from Prog Magazine. He also runs this a publishing company that gets it. So, however, I had an interview with him for Prog, is it Prog Magazine, like that Prog thingy from England, Jesus, and a super nice guy. We talked a lot, and then he was kind enough. He sent me a couple of books from the publisher that he thought I would like from the publishing company, and one of those was the biography of Mark Kelly from Marillion. And I've been reading that when I was snowed in. I had it with me in Norway, like my wife is Norwegian. We were in Norway in January. So, however, so I really had the time. I had taken it with me. I started on the plane already. She had traveled before me. And then I happened to read all this. And then I come across the story of the most horrible failed Marillion show ever. And that was on the Brave tour at Biscaytale Bonn.
Okay.
And I've been there. And I hated it so much that I never wanted to hear a fucking word of the band ever again.
Yeah.
I thought, what the fuck is that? It was one of the most terrible evenings of my life. And then I find this particular show mentioned in the biography and explaining that like they had a complete disaster. Like everything went wrong. Like Brave had like this multimedia show and all that things, but nothing worked. Everything failed. So to the very day, Mark Kelly remembers that as the most terrible concert experience of his life. So actually I asked Nick to kind of give him my apology that I abandoned him for a bad reason. But from what I heard, for the rest, I also didn't like the music so much anymore, but it doesn't matter. At least it's an example for a band that really sustained a very long career in these difficult times as being like as unfashionable as you can probably be as a band.
Okay.
And that has my respect.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, definitely. So you said then you mentioned that you opened up a recording studio.
Yeah.
Is that so? How did that come about then? In terms of, so you decided that where did you have enough money to do that, and were you focusing on rock music, or was it anybody that you could?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, how could I? First of all, of course, when you are a musician and don't want to real work, that is as close as it gets. So indeed, I had a situation where I had the money because I had made like a small heritage from my grandfather. It was just about enough to kind of fund that project. And I knew absolutely nothing about the technology and stuff, but our drummer, like who sadly passed away last year, he was always like the MacGyver guy. He was a technical genius.
Sure.
So, and he was always into engineering. So we said, you know what? I kind of have the money. You have like the skills. So let's try that. In the beginning, the idea was really to mostly use it for our own albums. We're like, well, why do we always take the budgets, carry it to some studio, stay there for 2 months?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And that's how it started. And it was somewhere late 90s. We're talking. That was a time when. That was before the big technology change came, but where it was possible to put together like a really decent, good recording studio without having to spend like super crazy amounts anymore. Like you had like halfway affordable alternatives, like with the SSL desks and that kind of stuff. So, however. And we did that, and it turned out to. We made our own album, Venus, we recorded there, which, by the way, sucks completely in terms of sound because we knew nothing. But with this album, we spent more time on figuring out what the gear is. I certainly did. Then at least we loved our reverb units we had bought. So the whole thing is like swimming in reverb. However, nonetheless, some people liked it.
Yeah.
So then it started that other people asked to record there. It was the 90s, so in the beginning it was a lot of black metal, death metal. I mean, that was the thing at the time. So I remember me truthfully, and I had no idea about that type of music again. Like you, I don't necessarily like people yelling at me, but I got into it, and I that's when I learned that I had really something to give as a producer, because what black metal bands really liked and needed was like after Dimmu Borgir got big, they wanted like orchestrals and stuff. And I could do that. So this is when I started to get into doing orchestrations and things like that.
Okay.
And I still kind of had my difficulties to adjust to the blast beats and all this stuff. But it is really when you get to learn the music from the inside, like working with artists who naturally feel that. For them, it's their natural way of expressing themselves. You get a completely different access to it than it would be like I would still to the very day not put on like a black metal album at home. I haven't done once in my life, but I can absolutely, with all dedication, produce that and spend weeks or months on that music and really like it. So and then that was, I think, after we did Dim Carcosa from Ancient Rites, the Belgish black metal band, second album we did with them. Right after that, I had an assignment to go to New York and work with the Arn Trio. That is a classical piano trio, meaning piano, grand piano, violin, top-notch virtuoso musicians. This was right after Ancient Rites. And that I had like a revelation experience, because I noticed that these people, they have so much more in common than what would set them apart. And it's in a way right there that I let go of genres completely. Think, what is that? It is all just different expressions of the same thing.
Yes.
And so it is much more important what connects them, not what sets them apart. And then in particular, like I came a bit from like this progressive rock stuff, because I had learned we are a progressive rock band. So you are also, I at least when I was young, was not immune to having like a bit of a high nose, because we can play all these things. And then when the first black metal, I said, oh, what is that? It's just noise. And then I meet like these stellar good musicians, so a totally different level, right? And they were like so friendly and so humble, and that's really taught me like a million of lessons.
Yeah,
so
never judge a book by its cover. When somebody could be looking so intimidating but so nice. Do you know what I mean? Isn't it really?
Yeah, but also more importantly, that's an experience I made over the years. Like the really really good musicians. They're saying to me, a virtuoso is not somebody who can showboat. It is somebody who can do it all, but will do only what serves the song. And if they play just two notes, they do it with the same excellence and dedication, like they would do whatever kind of 16th arpeggio at crazy speed. And this attitude to submit whatever skills you have to the music, this I believe is like the right mindset to have.
Okay.
Not like show off what you can do.
Now then. Producing or playing? What do you prefer? Producing or playing?
For me, it's the same. It's all playing. I mean, playing live, I never liked. So I'm totally not a stage guy. Because I'm the opposite of a stage animal. So I find that more intimidating. I love like the creative process of making music. That is what I thrive on. Not like playing the same songs over and over again on stage. But for me, producing and playing is all the same.
Okay, interesting. So when did the rebirth of Everon happen then?
That happened by complete coincidence. It happened a rebirth. Also, that feels like we never ended the band or something. We just didn't meet.
Didn't do anything. You didn't make anything.
But we didn't talk about it. I also do not, frankly, do not remember like the last day that we had played together or packed our things after a gig or after rehearsal, went home, say, okay, everybody have a good. No, it was very busy at the studio, so there was never time, and kind of life moved on.
Yeah.
So, and the rebirth was really like a joke. I had been talking, like I had a brief email contact with Ed von Zyl, like the owner of Masket. We hadn't talked in a while. And it was about something totally else, and then I just sent him a message, how are you, blah, blah, blah. And then I finished like with a joke, did we still have an option for a record deal? So if you would be silly enough, I might think about doing that. because I had come across like a copy of the record deal, like in my office. And seen it. Oh, we still have an option. Who cares? Nobody ever asked for it. Neither he did nor I did. And then he replied instantly, "Yeah, that was a wonderful idea." And then I said, "Come on, you know that was a joke." And he said, "Yeah, I guessed it, but think about it." That's how it is. Like I started thinking about it, and first thinking like, "Hell no," and then thinking, maybe, or then why not? And then I asked the other guys, "What do you think?" And they were, "Oh, why not?" And then at some point, I agreed with. I went over to Rotterdam. That's where the headquarters is of Masket. This is just, it's not so far from me as Holland, like 3 hours or something. And then we met and then we talked. And then actually he convinced me of that it would be a good idea. Because I frankly thought that who would care, right? So that's when it started. It was really, it was just a remark that I didn't mean serious at all.
So,
And I didn't have
obviously, and then Shells was born. How proud?
Yeah, born. There was not born a thing yet. Then I had to first give birth to it.
Yeah, you had to create it all. Now, so I want to get to a particular. What was your favourite song on that album? Let me ask before I ask this question. What's your favourite song off the album?
Do I need to have a favourite song?
Well, yes. I want you to tell me what your favourite song is.
I didn't think about it. I didn't ask myself that question. Look at the album. See, in the end, there is not a song that I particularly dislike or anything. There is a couple of songs that I really, really think turned out really well. First of all, in general, I like every song the same as much. My process is always the same. Like I start with nothing, and it's just then suddenly the inspiration, then the idea is there, and it forms in my head, and then the rest is like a quest. Okay. For trying to execute the idea in a way that does it justice, to nail it. And sometimes that works better than in other cases.
You're a hard man to pin down. You're like a slippery eel, Oliver. Right, I'm going to ask you, okay, so there's a particular song.
It's like asking you what is your favourite child or something. Okay. That is also...
So there's a particular song on there which is actually,
which you really hate.
Which is, it's Monsters.
Yeah.
Monster is, for me... if I had to liken to an artist, it would be Frank Turner. But it was just kind of like, for me, it was just, it probably, that, and there's another song out there, vying for my favourite song of the year by Miles. Because, and I'd like to know, was that process, because you think it's going down a certain way, and then it flips it, and it's an emotional. It's like an emotional story of a journey, of somebody's journey of redemption, and an attempt to forgiveness. But the deed is almost too unforgivable in that sense. Was that from a personal experience, or was that from somebody's? Did you take that from somebody else's experience? Or how did that come about?
No, it's good you come to it. It's good you come to it, because I have like I think Trish back then sent me like the link to the video that you guys had made. I don't know who was the guy in the upper right corner. Was that you? I don't know that. At least he talked about Monster.
That'd be me, and I love it.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to, because that if I would have come further, like fishtailing my way through, avoiding the question, that would be one of the songs I mentioned. That is amongst my favorite, let's say. So, one thing I did not take into account when writing this was that these days not everybody gets to read the lyrics, so they just hear things. And Monster, you're not the first one who got it wrong. If you pay close attention to the lyrics, it is very, very obvious that it is not about myself.
No.
So, and in that, if you were the guy in the upper right corner, you made the point that it kind of was, because the lyrics make it very obvious that it is about the story of a girl, right? So, and that kind of the only bugs me in that respect, that it is a very sensitive topic, and that my father, he doesn't live anymore, but he was kind of the sweetest, most decent man. So the thought that he would have done anything like what this story is
No,
about.
no. As I said, or was it because like the more you listen to the song, it's almost like there was two people in the story, like there were as a brother and a sister, almost. But that's what I was saying. Was it from a personal experience, or was it,
Yeah,
or was
yeah,
it,
yeah,
or was it from
is
somebody else's experience?
fine. Yeah. However, it is written from the perspective, from my perspective.
Yes.
It is the I don't want to go too much into
No,
detail
no, no.
because
Absolutely
that,
not. Appreciate
yeah.
that.
So, but however, it is about something that somebody who's very close to me experienced,
Yeah.
and it's about me meeting at some point
Yes.
the
That
person who I
person.
know
Yeah.
did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the absurdity of the situation, because actually what you want to do is you expect to meet like a monster, because that, however, is so unbelievable to imagine what has happened, and then you meet that person in real life, and it's actually like a friendly guy.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean that I would forget that I know what, but it's a very, very weird experience, because of course you form like the picture of that person and all that he is.
Yeah.
And always avoided actually to even meet him, and then at some point you do. And then like all this anger and hate and everything that you feel, you kind of don't know where to go with it, because actually it's a really sweet old book. So
No, I mean, from a personal experience, a similar happened to me with my mum and dad got divorced, and he was made out to be the most nastiest, evil person in the world, and I hated him for so many years. And when I met him, he was actually not the monster that I was led to believe, and most of what I've been told my life was actually a complete lie. So
yeah.
it kind of, and I can imagine it. It wasn't to the extreme that was in the lyrics of the song, but it spoke to me, and I can imagine if people listen to that song, it would, the way you portrayed it and the way that you wrote it, I can see it resonated with so many people in that situation. It's a beautifully crafted song. I mean, probably one of the best crafted songs of the year so far, in my opinion. But yeah.
Thanks a lot. I normally not tend to think too highly of myself, or not good at handling compliments. But with this one in particular, with the lyrics of that one, I had really the feeling that I really it was kind of a lucky shot in kind of really managing to get it in words. That when it was finished, that I felt like this is really like a well-crafted piece of lyrics. Even though I made it, I'm not always that lucky. But with this one, I'm kind of a little proud on because it is a very sensitive topic, and I wasn't sure, actually, can you do that, or is it too? And I think kind of fell into place that it's like a good balance of not being too disgusting or too
no, I don't. Yeah, I do.
Or indecent, or however, I'm happy with the way it turned out.
I think what makes it such a special song as well is, and in my mind, that it's, more and more people listen to it, it'll become, for me, a classic. It's because the musicality of the rhythm of the music that kind of goes with it as well is sublime. It just is. It just take the compliment, because
but the truth is that I'm not sure that I have to explain how my process works.
Yes, please.
Because I don't want to make it sound like it's like the result of a lot of thinking and that like there's a plan to it. First of all, it is not. I just have the idea for the music. So also with this one, it started just with this piano theme that the song starts with. That's what it all came from. And then what I normally do is I just let it grow in my head. I don't even play. And when sometimes in my head I have the complete picture, and then I sit down and then I work out the music. And while I work on the music and do the arrangement and learn how to play it all and whatever, then the words start to come automatically.
Yeah.
Not the entire lyrics, just like normally it's like just a phrase here or a word that, of course, when I work on it, I work on it like 4, 5, 6, 7 days, however, so you come across the parts 100 times, and every time when you come there, because my head already spins like vocal melodies, there is the words. And very often at this point I don't even know what the lyrics is about, because it doesn't make enough sense. You just have like fragments. And still I learned that I have to roll with it. I believe that the it is already in there. You just have to listen. And then at some point when I sit down to write the lyrics, which is after the music is finished, vocals always do last, then it is like connecting the dots.
Yeah.
And then often it becomes clear, okay, this is what I'm writing about. And it's sometimes very interesting to read what you're writing about, because of course it is something that tells you something about who you are. Things that Monster is not so much an example, because there I was very clear what I'm writing about, but there is also songs where you don't really like what you say there, but it shows you also sides of yourself which you don't really want to have. But I really believe that it is important to stay true to my inspiration, if I like it or not. It can also be with music that I work on it and it doesn't make sense, but it always goes in that direction. And I got used to it, that then all of a sudden, like a couple of days into it, it falls into place, and then, okay, that's why I did that. So I believe that much of this happens like subconsciously, and the best I can do as an artist is to try to not mess it up, not ruin it, trust it.
So, okay, well, look, for me, I thank you for writing it, thank you for performing it. So, you talk about the fact then, to move on then, because we're going to be coming to the end, but you say you don't like performing live, but is Everon going to be performing live at all? Are you going to do any sort of tour or sort of performance? Because this album deserves to be played live.
Yeah, but the thing is that let's say if you listen to the production, it is quite a detailed production. Of course, this is like my profession. So there's so many sounds that are layered, and I would need to grow a lot of hands to do all that. So just with the guys in the band alone, it's not going to work. And I wouldn't want to do like a semi-playback show, whatever. Plus, of course, don't forget that our drummer has passed away. Of course,
and I'm very sorry to hear about that, by the way.
It was a terrible story. But let's say we bring another drummer to play that. We tackle that. But still, I'm a little bit afraid that to bring it to stage the way that I think it would deserve, and that it does it justice, it may be out of reach. Yeah.
Okay.
Also,
so you said
also,
okay. So you said that it was a one, that you've managed to find this old contract for an option on an album. But has he given you another option? Are you coming back? Are you going to be?
Yeah. No, let's say
What's next?
The way the album was received is very good, and the record company already expressed the wish that we have another one next year.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but I don't have anything yet. So I don't know. But also, I didn't have a fucking note before I started working. I make music all the time. I've written like thousands of songs at time, like production music tracks, film music, working with other bands, so blah blah blah. But nothing for Everon. For me, it always, because I say I rely on inspiration. So what I have to do is I have to decide I want to do it, then set my antennas in that direction. Don't do anything else, and then the music comes. But the thing with that is that I can say that it came in the past, so it worked. But I wouldn't have anything at this point for a next album. I can only decide, okay, I feel like doing it, so I'm up for the gamble, and I try again. And then hope that the music and the lyrics will come.
Well, there's life all over, though, isn't it? So,
let's say, in the old days, I didn't tell the record companies, hey, I'm making a record before I had it.
Sure, get it. Okay, so let's wrap up on a couple of questions. So you're producing a lot of music. What's the latest hot rock band that's going to be hitting that you've produced and you've gone, oh, this is good. This is good.
But I'm not at all like known for being the guy who produces like the hot super. So I don't have.
I love listening to new little bands that come up. It's great.
Yeah, but let's say I'm not a pop producer for the most part. Though just recently I did some pop thing like Halbblut. This is the German thing from Berlin.
I'm not interested in pop, Oliver. I'm not interested in pop in the slightest, my friend. Not in the slightest.
No. But I mean, when you think of like producers, like the kind of the golden records of the world, that's not me. Actually, what I'm doing right now, I'm working on an album of the Swedish band Wolverine. There's good friends of mine.
Wolverine is great.
Yeah. Stefan all day.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing now. Next, there is the Onera, that is also a progressive band from Italy. I might do something with Leah again soon, I hope.
I'm going to check her out, that's for certain. So, yeah, but in terms of
Leah,
yeah.
check Ancient Winter.
Okay,
Album, Ancient
I will do
Winter.
it. Yeah,
This
well,
one,
I love your music, but I love symphonic rock and that sort of stuff as well. So
if you want symphonic rock or rock stuff, then you have to check out the newest album. The Ancient Winter, what she does is a blend between, she's Canadian, some Canadian like Lorena McKennitt is like a national hero. She likes this Celtic type of music, but also she's into metal. So her music is a blend of both.
Oh, nice.
But this Ancient Winter album is actually a non-metal album. And I love that one because we had like all the real players. We had like real violin, real cello, Troy Donockley from Nightwish doing all the pipes and flutes and whistles.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. And
okay. Cool.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, listen, Oliver, it has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I couldn't wait to talk to you. I couldn't wait to chew the fat on monsters in particular. And your story's absolutely fascinating. So we look very much with bated breath for the follow-up album in the next couple of years, I presume. Once you get your lyrics sorted out in your head and you can start writing it, we look forward to that. But thank you ever so much for joining us and producing a wonderful album. Everybody check out Shells. It's a terrific album, and see what you think. Do you agree with me? Do you think Monster's one of the best songs of the year? I think it is. So keep on rocking. So thank you very much, and please like and subscribe to the channel. And thank you very much to my guest tonight, to Oliver Phillips from Everon. Thank you
very much.
Keep on rocking, everybody.